Hey guys, Space Marine 658 here. Today we're going to be looking at how we can bind event delegates through interfaces. Now this is a bit of a challenging topic. There is a few caveats to this because normally this isn't something you can do. Now we're not going to be using C++ or any functions involved in plugins or anything like that. This is purely just in blueprints. C++ has its own way of handling it, of course, so if you're using C++, you can always look to those. But specifically for people using blueprints, it can be a bit of a challenge when you want to have decoupled code. You know, I want to send a message or trigger, have a bound event triggered by something else without it having a hard reference to it. Now, there's a few ways to do it, but one of the easiest ways is going to be something I'm going to show you here. It's a bit of a workaround. It's a bit of an odd one, but it works, and I've tested it out, and it works pretty well. So we're going to go ahead and go to our player pawn, but this could be just whatever actor you want, just anything that you want to have an event dispatcher on to trigger an event somewhere else. So in my example here that I'm going to show you today, I have a player interact event. Basically all it does is when you press and hold the interact key and it completes, it's going to trigger this call player interact. Basically it's just the system saying, hey, whatever's bound to player interact, do something, right? So let's go ahead and actually get this set up. What we're going to initially need is a function. This can be anything. You don't have to name it because this is going to be deleted later. And then we're going to call timer by event. And we need to pull this up into the function here. Once we have that, we can go ahead and delete that timer. And this gives us a delegate. Now, as you can see here, it's not passed by reference. But what you're going to want to do is actually pass that by reference because we want to make sure that we are actually passing that correctly to the bound event. We want to make sure we're passing the bound event correctly to the dispatcher. From here, we're going to go ahead and go over to our function section. Now, what you want to make sure you do is that function, you want to make sure you hit copy from here. If you copy from here, it will not work because what you're copying instead of the function is you're copying that node. And so it's not going to work. Then we'll go back to somewhere in your project, you're going to create a blueprint interface. And I will name this blueprint interface tutorial. But you name this whatever makes sense for this, specific one. We'll delete the initial one that comes with it. And now that we've copied it, we can paste it here, and we're going to call this bind to player. Player interact. And what this will do is this means that we can now bind an event to that player interact dispatcher. Now, as you can see here, we're passing by reference because that's what we copied over. Now we should be able to go in here and then just delete this function because we're not using it. We'll hit compile, save, and then we want to go to our class settings, and under implemented interfaces, this is where we want to go find that interface, so BPI_tutorial, select that. And what that's going to do is it's going to come over here and create an interface, and we can go find that. I think it'll be under default. Here we go, bind to player interact. And from here, we're just going to bind it to the player interact. So we go ahead and pull off our event dispatcher here. Now, one caveat to this is it has to be an empty event dispatcher. As far as my testing goes, I've not been able to successfully get it to work with any kind of inputs on the event dispatcher. It just throws an error and doesn't seem to work. But with an empty one like this, it works because I think it's just triggering a baseline event. It's sort of working more similarly to how a timer works, where it just one-shots it and it's good to go. There's no data you pass to a timer. I've tried it with a few other ways. I've tried maybe binding the event and using that as the input for that function, and I've just not been able to get it to work. But if anybody has any suggestions down in the comments below for how to get it to work, definitely leave it below. All right. And then what we can go ahead and do is, actually, I may have been slightly wrong. This may be one where we don't need to pass this by reference. I may have misremembered some things you need to pass by reference. I think with this one, you don't have to pass this one by reference. All right. So now we've got our event bound. What we can go ahead and do is we're going to go back to our main area here on our folder, and I'm just going to create the listener. So this is going to be whatever actor you want to have something happen to. So this example, I'm just going to create an actor, and I'm just going to call it BP underscore listen to player interact. And what we'll do is we'll just add like a static, if I can spell today, static sphere, and we'll make this like 5,000 because the scale of my game, and then we'll kind of back out a little bit. There we go. So we'll go ahead and set this up, and we're going to drag this out. So let me go to my tutorial level. So I've got a tutorial level here, and I'll go back into that tutorial folder. So what we want to do is, this is roughly where the player will spawn. So let's go ahead and drag this out somewhere where we can see it. We'll kind of drag it somewhere like there. And if we load in, we should see that up there. All right, while that's loading in the background, brief intermission. Make sure to like and subscribe if you haven't already. This helps me understand what videos y'all like to see. If there's any suggestions you have or anything you'd like to see, leave them in the comments. All right, perfect. So let's actually do something now. So on begin play, we could do it, any number of ways. You could do it as like a triggered as part of a mission or something. I'm just doing it for begin play for now because I just want it to be bound at the beginning of the game. But the nice thing with it being a bound event is you can do it literally any time. So let's go ahead and we're going to want to get our player pawn. Now, of course, if you are using your controller, player character, any of these other options, you can always use those. I'm using my player pawn, so I'm just going to call my player pawn. And from here, we're going to call that message bind player interact. So what this means is now from here, we can just drag off an event. So we'll just call add custom event, or you could even do it to make it a little cleaner. You could do create event. And from here, let's do create a matching event. And we'll just call this player interact. You could, of course, put this within a function if you wanted to, whatever you wanted to do. I mean, it's pretty nice because you can do all kinds of stuff here. So you can even bind on destroy actor, player interact. There's a few options here to call, or sorry, not bind to. You could call these events based on this current existing actor. So if you had an already existing event you wanted to trigger, you would just select it here. And then from here, we'll just do a simple print string. And just to make it very clear, we'll do player interact triggered. Let's go ahead and save. All right. And so what we got now is in our player, we've got a event bound to player interact. In our actor, we are calling to the player pawn and binding to that player interact. And then you could even do, if you want to be extra safe, you could do like implement interface, does object implement interface. I don't think that's super necessary because if it fails, it just fails. It doesn't crash or anything. It's not going to like hard fail. This should, if it fails, just not work. It should just not bind to anything because it won't implement the interface. But yeah. So from here, let's go ahead and we should be able to go into our level and actually trigger that. So you can see here there's a lot of text going by. So we'll go and look in the logs here in a second, but you should see it player interacted with the interface. So let's go ahead and open up our output logs. And if we type in player interact triggered, as you can see, we fired it off here 3 times, and the listen to player interact is the actor that is calling that event, triggering that off. Now, let's jump to sort of what would be the use case of this type of thing, because I want to kind of show you how I'm using it inside of my own game. So let me go ahead and load up my game. And as you can see here, I've got a bunch of different audio options. And something really cool is that I can actually trigger specifically this sound effect bar here based off of this event. So if I go forward and backward, you see how there's sound. If I go in here and I turn this down to have no sound effects, now it's dead silent. And the cool thing is I have control over that because I'm using an event to trigger it. One, it's a little bit more optimized because I'm just calling a single event. There's no polling, no listening. It's just an event that gets triggered. But it also means I've got a lot more control over it. So if I go back here into my player graph, I've got it under my control actor component. So essentially here, all I'm doing is I have a bound event, just effect volume, and I've got it on my game instance. So I don't have to have a reference to my game instance. I can just go, hey, when this event triggers on the game instance, I want to do something. So this signature here triggers effect volume. And then I also call it here at the beginning, just so that way I save my settings. So that way if players load the game and they've set their sound effects to 0 or 100 or whatever, it loads that default rather than whatever my own set default is. From there, you shouldn't be doing for loops and blueprints, but I'm doing it here just as a proof of concept. But it goes through these for loops with the rear engine audio. And then it actually pulls to the game instance on this event triggering, give me the sound effect volume. Now, in theory, it would probably be more performant to actually put these up front, because then one, I could only make one call instead of two. But then two, I can also just have it only call that specific function the one time, rather than calling it for every single item in the for loop. This itself should be a lot more efficient. Now, of course, we have to make sure that works. So let's go back and double check that, but it should. Yeah. So you can see it's silent here, but if I go into my settings and turn up my audio for that, hit save, and boom. So by having this be an event, because you could set these all under the same sound setting and have it all happen that way, but I like to have a little bit more fine control, so that way if you have a sound that maybe you don't want to be at the same multiplier as a different sound, you can sort of additively multiply those in a little bit of an easier, more intuitive way, in my opinion. But yeah, this is just one example of a way to handle it. There's lots of different things you can do with this. But the nice thing is, since this does keep this decoupled, if we go and look at our actor here, go to tutorial, and we right click and do size map, as you can see, it has no reference at all to our in-game instance, to anything outside of itself, essentially. It's only ever dealing with anything within itself. So the cool thing is that makes it very small. It's less than a megabyte just for this single item in the game-only version. Yeah. So you got different versions because so a lot of people don't realize you have dependencies to display. You have, this is what it looks like in the game. This is the editor. All the editor stores is just the name of it. In the actual game, that's where all your other options are. But yeah, I believe that is everything I had for y'all today. If you have any questions, leave them down below. But otherwise, good luck and good hunting.